3, 2, 1. Today, let's talk about the essential cuts that you should know as a beginning editor.
If you like this video, please subscribe and click that little bell for notifications when we release a new video.
Welcome to Pull My Focus Adventures in the World of Digital Filmmaking, where we bring you the inside tips on making great digital video. If you saw our last video about GAC and film set design, you noticed there's an extra person in the crew now. That's Sierra, and she's our new editor, helping out here at Pull My Focus to take on some of the editing tasks in Pull My Focus as well as Pixel Valley Studio. And with the addition of Sierra as an editor, now I have someone to talk to, besides just Frank and myself. Now, as an editor, there are certain tools you need in your toolbox, or at least you need to understand certain editing techniques that every single editor should know. And so when Sierra and I talk about cross cuts or LJ cuts or hard cuts or whatever, we both understand what we're talking about since we're coming from that editor dictionary, so to speak. Starting with the hard cut. The hard cut is the most basic type of cut in editing. It's basically when you take one clip, you end it, and you start another clip right next to it, so they butt right up against each other. Now, the hard cut is not very dramatic or visually stimulating in any way. It's simply getting from point A to point B in the story. It's a compression of time sometimes, or it's just, hey, this is happening, and then this is happening. So we really won't overthink the hard cut. Sometimes it's called the standard cut, but that's your first type of cut. J and L cut. Now, sometimes this can confuse new editors, what a J cut versus an L cut is. But I want you to think about it like this. The bottom of the J or the L is the audio track. So think of it from the perspective of the audio track, how it creates a J or an L shape. Now, the reason you're using a J and an L shape cut is to either start the audio of the next clip before you see that clip, or continue the audio from the current clip even after the current clip has switched to another scene. Okay? So in the first case, a J cut is the audio of the clip that's incoming starts before the clip is even seen. So you may hear the sounds of the ocean while the shot is still on a character or some other place, and then you see the ocean shot that audio leads into. And that looks like the letter J on the timeline. Adversely, the L cut is kind of the opposite, where now we're looking at the ocean and we switch to a shot of maybe a character in a farm or something like that, but we still hear the ocean for a little while. That would be the shape of an L. So J's and L cuts are really there for, and they're used in documentaries, in narrative films.
Okay, I'll get some friggin' GAC.
The jump cut. Now, some people think a jump cut started on YouTube. I mean, it is a technique that is widely used now to speed up maybe a talking head video or some shot, sort of like what Phil DeFranco does with his news stories and stuff like that. Or remember the old Ask a Ninja videos where they use jump cuts forever. But jump cuts are basically cutting during the same scene. So you're cutting out little pauses and little bits to speed time up, right? So you're still in the same shot. You're still locked in the same camera. You're still doing the same thing, except the time is now jumping from one part to the other to make a more kind of cohesive, quick story going on. Jump cuts started way back in the beginning of film. Jump cuts are widely used, like I said, on YouTube and things to speed up things. And we use jump cuts all the time here on Pull My Focus so that I can take out a lot of the hems and haws and ums from us. Cutting on action is a technique used to kind of blend one scene into the other where a character is doing a thing and make it more dynamic. For instance, you could have a character turn their head to look at something. Now, one option is to shoot the character turning their head, and then when their head is finished turning, shoot them from the new angle. That is kind of amateurish. So a really good technique to use is what's called cutting on action, where instead of cutting at the end or at the beginning of the action of the character turning their head, cut during the action of the character turning their head. That kind of brings both shots together. Cross-cutting. Cross-cutting is simply put two stories being told that are happening simultaneously, but you need to show both things happening. I mean, the old school example is, Polly Peril is being tied to the train tracks by the evil bad guy. But the good guy gets the word and jumps on his horse to go save her. Meanwhile, Polly Peril is trying to get off the tracks and the train is approaching. These things are happening in parallel with each other, which is also why this is called parallel editing. But in order to show this on the timeline, we need to cross-cut each one so that the viewer gets the idea that, hey, these things are happening at the same time, and it builds up like drama. It builds up a good amount of suspense. So that's cross-cutting. The montage. The montage. One of my favorite spoofs in, I think it was Team America? That's called a montage. A montage is a way of showing the passage of time, or maybe a character building up and practicing to do this great battle or perform this great thing. And it usually comes with maybe a music bed underneath it to show I'm about to get started, and tying the shoes and putting the knife in the belt and putting the backpack on, or working on a construction of a thing or whatever. So montages are basically there to show development, character development, passage of time. We're gonna shrink all this work into a nice little 1-minute package so that you don't have to sit there and live out this person going through this change. We can get it right real short. The cutaway. A cutaway is when the action of the scene moves to something else for a moment that could be related to that scene. A character wakes up in the morning and then something happens outside, so we cut away to see what's happening outside, then we come back to the character. Or in very comedic use of the cutaway is, Family Guy. When they say something, they set up a joke. It's sort of like that time that Brian did this. Then they show the thing that Brian did in some wacky way, and then they come back to the scene. So cutaway is a way to take the main action, move it somewhere else, and then come back to the main action. Matching cuts. Matching cuts are pretty cool, or the match cut as some people call it. It's when you take the scene or something in the scene and cut it into something else in another scene that's related. Here are some examples of some match cuts. So those are some essential cuts that you really should know about and think about using to spice up your videos, whether it be a documentary, a narrative, an instructional video like we do here. There are many different types of ways to use all the cuts that we just mentioned. And when you're talking to other editors, now you got the cool kind of secret language, cross-cut, match cut. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out pullmyfocus.tv for all of our other articles and videos. And you will see me, or Frank, or Sierra And the next one.
Good job.